Okay, welcome everybody to yet another episode of The Week in Technology. My name is Karamjit, and along with me in looking very red today is Aisha Mustafa. How are you, Aisha?
Hi, good, thanks.
Okay, great. In a slight departure from the normal, we normally start with the cover story for the week, and because we usually tape the show on a Thursday, we're actually taping the show a day early today because of logistical issues in-house. So the cover story is still being done by Doreen. No, it's actually being laid out now by our artist, but cover story was on Aisha's trip to Atlanta regarding biotech. I'll have a talk about that. And after that, we're going to talk a little bit about one of the other presentations during the Open Source Summit that is still going on today, which was a presentation by the Deputy Director General of Mampu. Some interesting insight and information she shared with us there. And I'll just share that with our viewers also. And then we're going to talk about an interesting session I had yesterday with the Chief Secretary of the Government, Tan Sri Hassan Siddique. Very interesting, very enlightening, and almost no holds barred session with the media. But first of all, Aisha, why don't you share a little bit about your, a little bit more. I know you spoke briefly on it last week, and also about on personalized medicine. You seem to be quite excited about that.
Yeah, actually, I wished I was there during the Chief Secretary's interview.
It wasn't an interview; it was a media, an open session, sharing session with the media.
The cover story this week, I actually did a comparison of what China, India, and Singapore has done differently than what Malaysia has done, because
it's not good to compare us with Singapore, Aisha.
No.
She still has a lot to learn. So.
No. I purposely did that because I know that we're sort of rivals, but I mean, I think there's a few things that they've done that's actually quite good. I mean, this, you don't have to like condemn someone just because you don't, rivals.
No,
but anyway, I'm hoping for a lot of letter to editor actually with that piece. But basically, what struck me was just how much they are willing to spend on R&D. It's kind of like almost like a no holds barred. We will invest as much money as it takes until we discover, more new drugs, more new enzymes, more new therapeutic things. So,
and
that's the difference.
What, 5 billion Sing dollars so far, right?
Yeah, 5 billion. Even it's. I mean, not just Singapore, even India and China. China recently, even in their stimulus package, they are, I think, allocating like 9.2 billion US into new technologies, and I think half of the new technologies that they mentioned is actually biotechnology. So these are the people that we are up against, So I remember reading Net Value last year. Najib, our Prime Minister, actually mentioned, we've spent like all these incentives, but other people are also, coming up with their own incentives. So we don't know how to attract people. But I just have to say that if your R&D, or if you don't have a good talent pool of people, no one's going to come and invest it with you. I mean, buildings and facilities, they're just nice things to look at, but no strong R&D base, not enough talent pool, investments are not going to come in. That's how I feel.
That's true. I mean, we had lunch last week, right, with a guy who spent 20 plus years in the quality, industry, and he says in Malaysia we think, quality is an event. You come and cut a ribbon, see some nice infrastructure, and then everybody forgets about it. So
we seem always to be missing the core point of things. But speaking on personalized medicine, I think even Obama has sort of tried to enact this law called the Genetics and Personalized Medicine Act. It hasn't really even sort of been constituted as a law, but it's actually a focus in America, because the rising healthcare costs that they have. Instead of treating the sick when it's already, expenses and surgery is already expensive, it's time to start looking at taking care of yourself when you're still healthy. And that's what personalized medicine is about.
So wellness then,
it's a wellness. It's like a true healthcare system that focuses on healthy people and not just sick people. So that's
the second story then, but it's still very broad. But it was from a presentation you were there, you attended, or it's just from the things you picked up over the 4 days you were there?
I think it was things that I picked up in the 4 days. But
so it's just based on the US experience, right, or what they're trying to do now, and you're hoping that we can, learn from it.
I think somebody mentioned that whatever it is that US takes, because they are the largest innovators in healthcare, even in biotechnology, so whatever it is that go after or whatever efforts that they're going into, you know, the world takes heed.
Okay. So that's coming then. Okay, good. Thanks a lot, Aisha. I'm just going to talk about the presentation that Dr. Noor Alia, who's the Deputy Director General ICT of Mampu, presented yesterday, and which Doreen attended. And she was saying that since the government introduced its open source master plan it was announced in July 2004, as of last month, right, the government has saved 48 million ringgit in licensing fees from, you know, moving, you know, various applications, you know, functionalities, you know, based to run on open source software. And she was, you know, she said it's a great start, but there's more to come, which is quite interesting. And of course, if anybody from Microsoft, or, you know, if Yasmin's listening to this, you know, she's on the phone now with the people and saying, we got to meet right now and discuss this. But that's what is happening with Mampu. Pretty interesting. And she said that they've got their open source competency center has trained 30,000 government and private sector staff now in various open source, you know, solutions. And also, there are right now 68% of government agencies are using various open source applications, and this 68% equals to 408 agencies. And apparently, in a presentation, there are about 720 government agencies. And Open Source Competency Center has actually developed 8, you know, open source applications itself. So it's pretty interesting. It's pretty good there. I think they're moving forward.
I attended a case study on the Open Source Competency Center, and actually the
when was this?
Just now. And
okay,
the director actually said, you know, I think one of the 8 products that they did, they've actually had requests from top officials like the Chief Secretary himself on what features they want to see in the product. So it's not only being widely, you know, it's being used by government officials. Even the top people are also, you know, like aware of these things.
Even
they're also
KSN.
using, they've asked for special requests for, like, you know, things that features that they want to see in those software. So
okay, very good. That's interesting. Just picking up on the session, and since you brought up KSN, you know, Tan Sri Sidek, there was a session. It was his inaugural Meet the Media session. Supposed to be monthly, but we told his point person who organized it that monthly is too frequent for him, and you're gonna invariably end up hearing the same things. You know, it should be quarterly, as in once in every 4 months, and we hope he does that. But it was with you know, from the media, from the various vernacular papers, and he just opened it up and, you know, asked people to, you know, to give feedback on what's going on. And I told him the key thing that I was concerned about was that, as the Chief Secretary, I said, you know, you shouldn't go around saying that our civil service is world class, because it's the end customers who should, you know, who should decide, you know, whether you're world class or not. And he says that they aspire to be world class, and he said that I don't recall ever saying, you know, that our civil service is world class. And he said that in January of 2007, I attended a masterclass branding workshop in Putrajaya, and it was held on a Saturday. And I said, you were there, and during the press conference, you did mention that you thought our civil service was world class. And I'm saying, I just think that you shouldn't. You should, you know, in private, you know, say you're happy with what they're doing, but in public, always say we need to do more. And then he said his style, even as a parent, is that, you know, if his children, you know, do something that's not right, he will take them aside individually in private, and, you know, and counsel them. And if only someone after 3 times, you know, they're still not changing their ways, only then will he give a public reprimand. So his philosophy, even as a parent, was such a way. And then, but amazingly, then he apologized. He said, you know, if I have said our civil service is world class, then I apologize, because it's not. Yeah, and I was quite struck by that, because I was only, you know, bringing up the point that for him, you know, not to do that. But I think for him to apologize also shows that it's very important for him to walk the talk. And if you then make a mistake, you know, you do apologize. And I think that's the message you want to send to the civil servants also, that if you make a mistake, you should apologize to the customer. So anyway, with that, we're just going to end this week's episode also. I'd like to thank you for watching, and, you know, bring your comments over, you know, constructive, you know, and make them hard and sharp. That's not a problem with us. And we'll see you next week. Have a great and productive week ahead with technology.